Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. It's July the 11th, 2019 in Chandler, Arizona. Lori Vallow Daybell's estranged husband, Charles, has been shot dead. The man who shot him is Alex Cox, Lori's brother, and he's sitting on the roadside explaining what happened to the police.
I turned around and he hit me in the back of the head with a bat. So I went to my room and got my gun.
If we look at his words, should we believe Alex shot Charles in self-defense, or was this a premeditated murder? If you pay attention to his words, you should be able to work that out for yourself. Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. What I do here is different from anywhere else because I strip away everything apart from the words that are said and then use my process of statement investigation to give you the key to seeing deception, the truth, and the hidden motivations of a person. At the time of recording, Lori is in court representing herself, and she's charged with the conspiracy to murder Charles. If we break down the interview that Alex gave the police just minutes after the shooting happened, what can we tell? It will be raw. It will be his first telling of the story. Is it smooth? Is he just telling us what happened? Or is he setting in motion a chain of events and a series of words to build up a story that is deceptive? What I'll be looking for here is storytelling tells. Is he just relaying events, or is he spinning a web of lies? Some things to look for are jumps in time. When he's talking about what happens, does he hide things by just skipping over and going forward in the timeline? Also, explanations versus events. Truthful people, when telling a story, tend to say, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. When people are making things up, they tend to give justifications and explanations for why things happened. And also, the timings will be really important. That's the timings as Alex lets them out in his words. So are we ready? Let's have a listen to the very beginning of what Alex said to the police just minutes after he shot Charles.
What happened today? How did it get to this?
I don't know, he was enraged.
What's going on? What happened?
Oh, he was talking with my sister earlier.
No, what happened today, though? Like, just in the last 20 minutes?
He came at me with a bat.
Okay. Was he living here or
No.
visiting?
He came to pick up his son.
Okay, is the son inside?
No, my sister took him to school.
Okay, so it was just you at the house?
Yes.
And he came, how long, what time did he come to pick up the son?
I don't know, 20 minutes ago maybe.
Okay, so you know who he is, let him in?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think they were talking earlier, then she left, and then he got into it with me.
Like what? What do you mean?
I don't know, he was accusing me of...
Come on over here. That truck's going to be really loud. What was he accusing you of?
He was just yelling at me.
Okay, what was he yelling at you about?
About my sister because I've broken up the tussle with them earlier. And he told me not to interfere anymore with them or I'd pay. And he came at me with a bat.
Okay, so he showed up in the house with a bat in his hand?
No.
Okay, so...
There was a scuffle earlier with my sister and my niece. My niece got involved.
About earlier meaning earlier this week, earlier this morning?
Just this morning, before they left.
Before your wife left?
My sister.
Before your sister left?
Yeah.
So very first question, always very revealing. And he is asked by the policeman, what happened today? How did it get to this? And his reply is, I don't know. He was in a rage. Now, I don't know, I often say is a hallmark of someone telling the truth. Truthful people do not mind saying, I don't know. And this is just a great reminder that all the principles I have, they're just data points. We need to keep adding all of them up because not one thing proves someone's lying over another thing. And I don't know here, well, we can actually see it is a lie because he's asked, what happened today? How did it get to this? He says, I don't know. And then he goes on to give lots of things that he does know. So the I don't know, don't buy too much that he means, I don't know. I think this is a lying, well, I don't know what happened, because he then goes into talk about the things that he knows, like he was in a rage and he started on my sister. He was in in a rage. It's not very descriptive. He was in a rage. He's asked, what's going on? What happened? And he says, he started on my sister earlier. Now, this is interesting. Number one, when he's asked what happened, then the point he starts at is a significant point for him. So listen, the guy is shot. That's the big thing that's happened here, is that Alex has shot Charles and Charles is dead. So that's what happened in the grandest scheme of things. That is the biggest what happened. And yet what he does is he goes back and starts justifying the shooting. Not necessarily means that he's guilty of making it up. He may feel like the most important thing for him to do is justify the shooting. In fact, that is the most important thing for him to do, because that's what he does. But what he's certainly not doing is saying, I felt in fear for my life, so I had to shoot him. Instead, he starts weaving this story for us about what happened. And as you can see, it's not a very descriptive story, because he says he started on my sister earlier. Just started. Started what? He doesn't even say. I know it's a common phrase for, don't start on me. It means don't aggravate me, don't pick on me, don't have a go at me. But it's quite that's all quite small. Don't start is the beginning of something. Literally, in the word start, it's the beginning of something. So what he's not saying here is that he was abusing the sister. He was physically assaulting his sister. His sister was in fear for her life or anything like that. It's very small, actually. It's just he started on my sister earlier. Didn't finish, by the way, or continue or anything like that. He's saying he started on my sister earlier. So this is where his timeline starts, in the timeline that he wants to tell us in the least, the timeline he wants to get across. He wants to start with Charles starting on Lori. The policeman picks up on this. He wants to know how come the guy got shot and killed. He says, no, what happened today though, like just in the last 20 minutes? And then Alex says, he came at me with a bat. Now, again, we've got this small action. He's going to claim later on, as we'll hear, that Charles hit him with a bat, but he doesn't say it at this point. Now, if he had hit him with a bat and he had shot him as a result of being hit with a bat, as a result of being assaulted with a weapon, frankly, why is he not saying that here? Why is he not saying, he hit me with a bat, he was attacking me, he was physically coming at me, so I shot him in self-defense. Instead, it's he came at me with a bat, which is not the same thing as hitting me with a bat. It's approaching him with a bat. It's literally there in the words. And again, he's saying what happened today, though, like just in the last 20 minutes, and he's still Alex does not mention the shooting. He's still giving reasons and explanations for all of this. Now, it may be that a person who has acted in self-defense would want to give the reason why they acted in self-defense, but you can see that's not what's happening here. He's not saying this happened, so in self-defense I did this. What he's doing is he's trying to build a picture of how aggressive Charles had been, and yet it's not really that aggressive. It's starting with his sister and coming at me with a bat. There's no real sense of a major physical violent action, and also emotionally there is nothing there either. It's not we were petrified, he was scaring my sister, I was in fear for my life. None of that is there whatsoever. It's just these very minimal actions of coming at me with a bat and starting on my sister. Was he living here or visiting? And he says, no, he came to pick up his son. Now, that's a little bit extra. Was he living here or visiting? The answer really should be he wasn't living here, he was visiting. That should be all that needs to be said. But he's gone a little bit extra. He came to pick up his son, is what he said. Now, is that something that is significant? It made me think when I saw it, was he lured there to pick up his son? Because what happens is the things that are in our mind that are the truth, we cannot help them leak out when we're talking, especially if we've just shot someone, we're talking to the police, we're highly stressed. So even if there is a story that we want to just stick to and we should be listening to the questions if we're being deceptive and just answering those questions, we'll want to get our prepared story out. We'll want to get this version of innocence that we want to get out, and there's this picking up the son. Is that part of it? He's asked, is his son inside? And he says, no, my sister took him to school. So he's gone extra. Why the extra? that is there. And also, why did he come to pick up his son if his sister took him to school? We find out later on there, but this is not fluid from Alex whatsoever. He's then asked, okay, so it's just you at the house. And Alex says, yes. And he came. What time did he come to pick up his son? And he says, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, maybe. Just remember this answer because there's a lot happens in this 20 minutes. Again, he uses the phrase, I don't know. Now, I believe this one. Now, we can use this one in a way where we remain truthful, but we are deceptive, which is when someone says, what time, if we don't know the exact time, like was it 11:19 and 33 seconds, we can go, I don't know the time, and we can be honest in saying, I don't know the time, but it just manages to hide the fact that we know exactly what time it happened because things were planned very, very carefully. I don't know, 20 minutes ago, maybe. Just remember that answer because so much happens there. Okay, so you know who he is? Let him in. And he says, yeah. No, I think they were talking earlier, then she left, and then he got into it with me. So this is extra here because the question that was asked was, you know who he is? And it should have just been, yeah, I know who he is. Let him in because it's my sister's husband or it's my niece and nephew's father or anything like that. Instead, he goes extra and starts telling his story again. No, I think they were talking earlier, then she left, and then he got into it with me. Now, he said that Charles had started on his sister earlier and now they were just talking. So it's not consistent here. They were just talking earlier, then she left, and then he got into it with me. Now, again, got into it with me. This is not about fear. This is not about aggression. This is all very small. Just he got into it with me. So if his self-defense is that there was a lot going on, it was a highly charged emotional situation, we were in fear for our lives, this guy was ranting and raving and threatening and abusing and all that sort of stuff. If that is his story, it's not present here when he talks. So there's none of this emotion, there's no fear or anything like that. It's very, very small actions, talking, and he got into it. The policeman maybe picks up on this because he asks, like, what do you mean? And he says, I don't know. He was accusing me of, he gets cut off because they moved because of the truck. But once more, we've got this, I don't know. So he was getting into it with me. What do you mean? I don't know. Well, you do know because you've just said he was getting into it with me. So I don't know. Normally from people, it's quite a truthful thing. When it's coming from Alex, I'm not 100% convinced that he really means his I don't knows. Again, we come to the interaction between the two. And again, it's all very small. He was accusing me of something. So he's not, again, threats of violence or anything like that. Really, his story is he hit me over the head with a bat, so I shot him to stop him doing it again. That is what his story is. We will see that as we go through this, but right now, he's just accusing him of doing things. So he's told to move because the truck is going to get really loud, which I'm glad of because it's hard enough to hear at all. The policeman picks up on this accusing thing. What was he accusing you of? And here we go again, and I think this is indication of a lie. He was just yelling at me. So he's asked, what? You said he was accusing you of something. What was he accusing you of? And he doesn't answer the question. Two possibilities here. Because look, if this happened 20 minutes ago, he should know what he was accusing him of. He's brought up the fact he was accusing him of something, but he doesn't answer. Is that because A, he was accusing him of nothing at all, the accusations didn't happen, therefore he has no answer beyond this made up, he was accusing me of things? Or does he want to hide what he was being accused of here? That's another possibility, but we have a lie here. He was just yelling at me is what he said. Well, wait a minute. Was he yelling at you or was he accusing you of things? You're not being honest with us here, Alex. A little hint for you there. So if the I don't knows are a bit dodgy in this one, we've got the word just. And just is a word that always should be a red flag that deception is happening. And I've got just here, just yelling at me. There was much more going on, or he was just yelling at me. It's small, pay no attention to it whatsoever. But we do have that word just, which just makes me always dig in for deception. And I think I see it here because what I am seeing here is the fact that he said he was accusing me of something, but when he's asked, what was he accusing you of? He has no answer. He was just yelling at me. And then we go, what was he yelling at you about? He says, about my sister, because I'd broken up a tussle with them earlier, and he told me not to interfere anymore with them or I'd pay. Now we're getting somewhere, we're getting a little bit more detail, but he's had some time to think about this now as the questions have been coming. He was accusing me. What was he accusing you of? Oh, he was yelling. What was he yelling at you? I've had some time to think about this. Is this what's happening? And now I can give some answers. But what was he yelling at you about? Now, it's about my sister. Now, the overall impression we might get from that answer, about my sister, because I'd broken up a tussle with them earlier, and he told me not to interfere anymore with them or I'd pay. Now, that's not yelling about your sister. That's yelling about Alex. That's saying, don't get in between us anymore. But no, it was about my sister. So was there some yelling about Lori going on there, which he wants to hide, because then he says, because I'd broken up a tussle with them earlier. And we have that word tussle. Again, tussle's not a very big thing, is it? I mean, we'd rather not have a tussle than have a tussle, I guess. But once more, the actions described are small. It's just, I'd broken up a tussle with them earlier, and he told me not to interfere with them anymore or I'd pay. Also, he says here it was a tussle. Earlier on, he said they were talking. So what was it? Why has he called it talking at one point and a tussle at another point? He's not being consistent with his definitions there at all with what has gone on. So I'm picking up lots and lots of deceptive indicators just from this really small first part of this police interview. Alex continues, and he came at me with a bat. Another small action. It's not he hit me with a bat or he aggressively came at me with a bat. It's not even he came at me with a bat and I was terrified or I ran out of the house or I scarpered quickly. It's just he came at me with a bat. Very small and doesn't seem to have anything larger connected to it whatsoever. The policeman says, okay, so he showed up at the house with a bat in his hand. And Alex's reply is no. Here we've got a little bit of baseline on Alex. This is what the truth sounds like from people. And even when we're lying, even when we're being deceptive, we will tell the truth at some points. The truth is normally very straightforward, normally very, very simple. And here we have it here. It's one word, no. He showed up at the house with a bat in his hand, question mark. The possible answers to that are yes, he did, or no, he didn't. He answers with no. And that's all he says. So I believe this. This is an indication of what it's like when he's telling the truth. It's very simple. It's one word long. And it's very direct. There's no other stuff in there. It's just no. And the policeman says, okay, so, and then Alex goes extra and says things that he wasn't asked. He says, no, there was a scuffle earlier with my sister and my niece. My niece got involved. So once more, we had tussle earlier. Now we have scuffle. Again, not really big words. You know, this is not assault. This is not violence. This is a scuffle. So he's using very small words to describe the interaction that happened. And all of a sudden, the niece has become involved as well. So before it was just the sister, and now it's the sister and the niece as well. Now, before he did say, I think they were talking earlier, and now all of a sudden he's remembered the tussles and the scuffles, and also the niece getting involved earlier. He says, the policeman asks earlier this morning, he says, no, just this morning before they left. Now, it's very important for him to get across the fact that these people have left for some reason. I mean, obviously, if there was a scuffle, and they're not there now, the scuffle must have happened before they left. It's just obvious it must have happened, but for some reason it's important for him to say they left. They left before this shooting. So he says, the policeman says, before your wife left, and he's corrected by Alex to say, my sister, before your sister left. Yeah, again, an indication of what the truth is like, because it's just a very simple one-word answer. So we've watched less than 2 minutes of this interview, and so far I have got downplaying or smallness in what is there in terms of like the tussle, the scuffle, the talking, the yelling, the accusing. He's downplaying, or he's got very small actions on what actually occurred between Lori and Charles and also Alex and Charles is all very small. I've definitely got some lies in there. He thinks they were talking, but then he knows there was scuffles and he knows there was tussles as well. And also there's a focus on before the moment of the shooting. He wants to storytell and explain what happened rather than talk about the act of shooting itself. So that's all I've got from like 1.5 minutes worth. Let's see what we can get from, if we look some more, at Alex speaking.
Okay, who lives here with you?
Nobody. I don't live here. My sister lives here and my niece lives here.
And you're just visiting?
I was visiting for the night.
Okay, so you're over here visiting your sister and your niece.
Yes.
Okay, and there was a tussle between your sister and her husband.
Yes.
And does the husband live here or no?
No.
Okay. Okay, is he an ex-husband or just current husband?
They're working on that.
Gotcha. So at some point earlier today, they get into some type of domestic?
Yeah, just this morning, then they left, and then he came at me.
They left meaning who? Both of parties?
Yeah, my sister took my niece and my nephew.
Okay, so they left.
Create some space for him, and then he came at me.
Okay, but did he leave also?
No.
He stayed here?
He stayed.
Okay, so he's asked who lives here with you, and he says, nobody. I don't live here. My sister lives here and my niece lives here. Very, very straightforward. I don't live here. My sister lives here and my niece lives here. I believe this. I believe this is truthful from Alex. I don't live here. My sister lives here and my niece lives here. You can see what the truth sounds like when it comes from Alex. Straightforward, simple, understandable as well, and nothing extra that doesn't need to be there. He's then asked, and you're just visiting? And he says, I was visiting for the night. He says, okay, so you're over here visiting your sister and your niece. And he says, yes, yes, you can see, just so straightforward. Okay, and there was a tussle between your sister and her husband. And he says, yes, again, that's quite straightforward. And does the husband live here or no? And he says, no. Very straightforward, just simple answers to the questions. Okay, is he an ex-husband or just a current husband? And he says, they're working on that. So not a straightforward answer there. I believe the truthful answer would be something like they're still married but they're separated, they broke up a long time ago, or they're going through a divorce or something like that. But he says, they're working on that. There suggests the two of them are working on that together. That would be Charles and that would be Lori. But for some reason, he doesn't give quite a straightforward answer to that. They're working on that. What does that mean? I don't know. You get any comments on that, any thoughts on that, then do leave them in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. Why does he not just say they're going through a divorce? They split up a while ago. Why is it they're working on that? The policeman says, gotcha. So at some point earlier today, they get into some type of domestic. And he says, yes, just this morning. Then they left and then he came to me. So we've got the word just there. That's going to make me dig into what's going on. Yes, just this morning they got into a domestic. Does that mean there's been lots of domestics? Does that mean there's been lots going on? Or is he trying to like say, oh, it's just this morning. This is all a complete surprise to us that this domestic had happened. That's possible to me as well. But that word just says to me, not all as it seems there. And once more, he has to get across the fact that they left. You can look, the question is just, there was some sort of domestic this morning. And if he was being his typical straightforward, truthful answering system here, he would say, yeah, this morning there was a domestic, but he wants to get across the fact again that they left. And then he came to me. He's asked, they left, meaning who? Both of the parties? He says, yeah, my sister took my niece and my nephew. So I believe the question that the policeman's asking is they left. Does that mean Charles left and Lori left? And that's what he means by both the parties. Alex misunderstands that. I think this is an innocent misunderstanding, not an indirect answer to the question. He says, yeah, my sister took my niece and my nephew. Now, the nephew keeps disappearing here because if you go way back to the beginning of this, and he's asked, who lives here? I don't live here. My sister lives here and my niece lives here. The nephew wasn't mentioned earlier. Now, I don't know. Maybe that's truthful. Maybe the nephew didn't live there, but the nephew just keeps coming in and out of this storyline, whereas Lori and the niece are quite consistent in all his telling of it. As we'll notice as we go through this, the nephew is a bit of an afterthought for some reason when Alex is talking. The policeman says, okay, and they left. And he says, to create some space for him. and then he came to me. So we have the he came to me. Now again, this is this downplaying thing, or these very small actions. He came to me. Actually, he came to me is one of the strangest small things that we've got there. Before we've had tussle, yelling, accusing. He came to me is not he came for me, which would imply some violence and some sense of attack. He came to me is almost like he came to me for help. When someone comes to us, they come to us friendlily, they come to us in peace. He came to me, not he came for me, but he came to me. This very strange smallness, according to Alex, of the things that Charles has done. He gives away a reason for why they left. Now, he's only asked, so they left. It could be, yeah, they did. Yeah, they left. Instead, he gives the reason they left, which is to create some space for him. Now, that's interesting. Not for them. They didn't leave to create some space or to get away from the threat they felt they were under, to get away from the violence that maybe they experienced. It was to create some space for him. Why would you be creating some space for this person? Not to get away from him at all. They certainly weren't getting away from him. In the words of Alex as he's talking there, they were creating some space for him. Creating some space for what? A murder, perhaps? Okay, but did he leave also? The policeman says, no, he stayed here. He stayed. So once again, we have these really simple, truthful answers that we can tell when Alex is being honest with his answers there. So that was about a minute long. I've got some suspicions about the role of the nephew in this. I'm not saying the nephew did something. I'm saying that in Alex's head, did the nephew have a role in the story that he's creating, or in the real life events? Was the nephew used as a bit of a lure? Because the nephew seems to get hidden inside all of this. And we've still got these bland terms to describe what happened, what Charles was doing. Just these very bland, anemic terms. I get no sense of real threat or fear of what Charles was doing at all from Alex's words. Let's have some more now from the roadside police interview.
So it's just you and your brother-in-law.
Yes.
Okay. And kind of go through it. Did you say something like, "Hey, don't touch my sister," or
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
And then he picked up the bat.
Where was the bat at?
In the living room.
Okay.
The guy.
So you both. So you get in an argument. What is it over?
Well, it was over my sister. He was getting physical with her, and so my niece came out with her bat, and then he took the bat away from her.
Wait a minute, I thought you said your niece left.
She did. This is before.
Okay. So before your sister and your niece left.
Yeah.
At some point, your sister and her husband are arguing.
Yes.
Verbal argument. And then your niece pulls out a bat?
Well, it wasn't verbal. He was getting close, and she came out to defend my sister with her bat.
Your niece?
Yes.
Okay.
And then she poked at him, and then he took it away.
Okay.
And then I stepped in and told them they needed to separate.
Right.
So then my sister leaves with my niece.
And how long ago did they leave? It's been like an hour, 10 minutes?
20 minutes maybe, I don't know.
Okay. So not terribly long.
No.
Oh, okay.
And then he's coming back at me, and he's still got the bat in his hand. I'm like, what are you doing?
And where are you at it? Where are you both
in the living room.
Okay.
And then I turned around, and he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and got my gun. I always carry it.
You went to your room, meaning the room you're staying in?
Yeah.
Okay, and you brought a gun with you?
Yes.
Do you always bring a gun?
I have a concealed carry always.
Okay.
Just to be safe.
Right, I have so much to say to this section here. We've got the question, first of all, so it's just you and your brother-in-law, yes. And we've just got this really simple framework going on here where I believe he's being honest and truthful because it's short answers directly answering the question. Okay, and kind of go through it. Say something like, hey, don't touch my sister, and he's like, yeah. Who was the aggressor is the question I have here. We don't really get any sense at all that Charles was being an aggressor here. And then he says, and then he picked up the bat. So and then suggests a jump in time. If you think about when you tell your friends a story, maybe about what you did at the weekend, you'll say, we went out and we went to the mall and then we went out and got something to eat. And that and then covers up a whole load of things. It might be just boring for you to say, or you did something you don't want to share. So we use and then to jump time in the stories. Now, this is a very short story and it's about killing someone. So nothing could be too trivial here. So what is it he's jumping time with? And then he picked up the bat. So there's something missing here, and then it's denoting a jump in time. And picked up the bat once more. This is not violent. This is picking up a bat. I agree, you have to pick up a bat to do something violent with it, but he's not talking about the violent part of it. He's talking about the non-violent part of it, picking up the bat. He's asked, where was the bat at? And he says, in the living room. Okay, so you get into an argument. What is it over? And he says, and I'll read his full answer. Well, it was over my sister. He was getting physical with her. And so my niece came out with her bat. And then he took the bat away from her. Now, the answer starts with the word well. That means I'm not going to answer the question the way you want. I'm not going to give you a straightforward answer, and I'm tipping you off that what you're going to get is more of an explanation to why things happened, rather than just what was the argument over. And you can see, what was the argument over? It was over my sister. You can't have an argument over a sister. You can have an argument over the sister's actions, the sister's beliefs, the sister's behavior, but you can't have an argument over the sister. That's a catch-all term there, that he's hiding something here, possibly that there was no argument, and that he's just using this big term, it was over my sister. Or he's hiding what the actual argument was about. He doesn't want to go into the details, so he's just saying, oh yeah, it was over my sister. He gets stuttery here for the first time. Now, what I noticed when I was looking through this was he doesn't stutter very often. Often, stuttering is a sign of stress. He's just spoken to the police, or he is speaking to the police. He's just shot someone dead. I would expect him to be stressed, but he's very smooth with his words. But here, at this point, he gets stuttery. He was getting physical with her. So is this a lie? Is this where the actual stress comes? Because so far he's thinking, if I just tell the truth, or I've got this story in my head, that's all I need to do to tell. I can tell that quite straightforward. And then he's asked this question that he's not quite sure what the answer is, so he has to make it up. And is it the right thing to say? He was getting physical with her. Once more, we have a downplaying or a smallness in these actions, getting physical with her. It's not visceral. It's not he was hitting her, he was grabbing her throat, he was pushing her around. Nothing like that at all. It's not a very descriptive description of what has happened, if anything has happened. It's just getting physical with her. And so my niece came out with her bat. Now, we're seeing so many storytelling elements come in here. We've had the and then, jump in time, and now we have and so. Now, when someone's telling us events, especially important and recent events like this, we just expect this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. When we get and so, it means this happened and so this happened. So someone's giving us reasons and excuses as to why things happened. So the niece came out with her bat, and so the niece didn't just come out with the bat out of nowhere, or came out with the bat because she was going to hit her dad at all. It's and so, and the reason that the bat appeared wasn't anyone's fault on my side of the argument. It was Charles's fault that the bat came out because he was getting physical with Lori. And so my niece came out with the bat, and then he took the bat away from her. So we've got and then, so jump in time, he took the bat away from her. And we can see there is that jump in time with that and then. The niece came out with the bat and did what? Doesn't say. Said what? Doesn't say as well. You know, did she just come out with the bat and expect everything to stop? Or did she say, stop or I'll hit you? There's nothing there that's descriptive. It's this jump in time. And then he took the bat away from her. Once more, this really smallness of actions. The niece came out with the bat. Now, I'm just trying to think and picture this in my head. Lori is being got physical with by Charles, so the niece comes out with a bat. This sounds like a highly charged emotional situation, although there is no emotion in the words whatsoever. The niece comes out with a bat, says, "What? Stop hitting mom, and otherwise I'm going to get at you with the bat," or yells or screams or whatever. And he just takes the bat away from her. He took the bat away from her. It's very small. It's not wrestled the bat away from her, fought at her to get the bat. It's just so small. He's asked, "Wait a minute, I thought you said your niece left." And she said, "She did. This is before." So listen, I want you to know that this is all about the shooting of someone, and we still don't have the shooting has come up whatsoever. Really, we have storytelling, and what we have here is a lot of setting of context. The policeman says, "Okay, so before your sister and your niece left, yeah. And at some point, your sister and her husband are arguing, yes. Verbal argument," he's asked, and he doesn't say anything. And then your niece pulls out a bat. And he says, "Well, it wasn't verbal." So we've got the word "well" again. So this is an explanation coming up. He could just say it was a physical argument, but no, it's a "well." It wasn't verbal. He was getting close, and she came out to defend my sister with her bat. Once more, no threat, no violence. It wasn't verbal. Now he's telling us what it wasn't. He doesn't tell us what it was. He was getting close. Getting close to what? I understand that if there is a verbal argument and someone's getting in someone's face, then it does become more physical. But this is not what he's saying. It's not believable. The actions are so small. And what I think is going on here is either this didn't happen, there was none of this that's happened, and he doesn't have the authentic experience to tell us in real words what happened, what the physicality was like, what the level of fear was like, what the anticipation or dread felt like. He has none of those words whatsoever. Or it did happen, he just wants to make it sound bigger than it did, but he doesn't have these big heightened words to describe what's happened. But for some reason, he wants to make this sound super threatening, super violent, super scary, but he doesn't get across any of that at all. He just uses really small descriptors for what happens. He was getting close, and she came out to defend my sister with a bat. Your niece? Yeah. Okay, says the policeman. And then she poked him, and he took it away. So we have, again, it's just another one of these small descriptions. She poked him with a bat. That's just very small. It's not, hit him, threatened to whack him or anything like that. It's just poked him, and he took it away. So again, this small thing, it doesn't really sound like a huge violent confrontation with the niece coming out with the bat. Leave mom alone. I'm going to take the bat away from you. Okay, and then the policeman says, "I stepped in and told them they needed to separate. So then my sister leaves with my niece." So we have "and so" here. "And so" in storytelling can be said, the two words together. So this happened, and so this happened. Or you can find it like here. "I stepped in and told them they needed to separate. So then my sister leaves with my niece." But certainly we have another explanation here as to why the sister, Lori, has left with the niece. And I think this is really, really important for him to get away the fact that they left because of this threat, that there was a reason why they were not there. They didn't just walk away. They're not there accidentally. He really wants to get across this reason why they left. And again, when we've got things going on, which is, was this a premeditated murder? I'm going, was this all set up to make sure that they weren't there at the time, so they could not be accused of being involved at all? So he wants to get across not just that they weren't there, but there was a very solid reason why they weren't there. I think that is why he is focusing so much on the fact that they left and there was a reason for them leaving. He's asked, "And how long ago did they leave?" "It's been like an hour, 10 minutes. He says, 20 minutes maybe, I don't know. So we've got this 20 minutes where so much happened, where 20 minutes where they turned up, where Charles turned up, and then there was this altercation, including it got so serious that can't just have happened in a very short space of time, that the bat came out, the bat was taken away, and then they left. All seems to have happened in about 2 minutes from this storytelling. The timeline is well off there. And the police guy says, "Okay, so not terribly wrong." And then Alex goes with two and then, so he's really signaling a jump in time here, but he doesn't know what it is he wants to say. It's and then he's, and he sort of pauses, so he's not entirely sure what he's going to say here. Is this because he's fabricating it? Because this is the moment of aggression that he's talking about, which is going to cause the shooting, and he seems to have some trepidation about saying it out loud. And then he's coming back at me, and he's still got the bat in his hand. I'm like, what are you doing? So he's coming back at me. Again, I've got a couple of things around this. Coming back at me, has he come at you before? Because you haven't said he came at you before at all. So why is he coming back at you? Why is he not just coming at you? And once more, I'm sure you can spot it now. It's very small. He's coming back at me. He's not advancing towards me. He's not coming towards me with the bat, threatening to hit me with the bat. He's not swinging the bat at me or anything like that. No, it's just this very small. He's coming back at me, and he's still got the bat in his hand, and I'm like, what are you doing? The policeman says, and where are you at? Where are you both at? And he says, we were in the living room. Okay. Another jump in time, because Alex says, and then I turned around and he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and got my gun that I always carry. Okay, so we have and then jump in time. So, and we can see a jump in time here. The guy, in his words, Charles is coming at him with a bat, and he's like, what are you doing? So you turn around? Yeah, I may back out the room. You may even turn around and flee. I get that. But it's just, I turned around. Then we have, and so storytelling. And he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and got my gun that I always carry. So the blame, the so here, the fact that he went to get his gun is blamed on the actions of Charles. So he's blaming Charles for the fact that he had to get the gun. Now, this is what may happen in self-defense, but it's this way of telling the story, the and so. And he did this, so I did that. So it's his fault. And it's the gun that I always carry. So what we've got here is him normalizing him having a gun. Don't ask any questions about why I had a gun. Don't go, did you have a gun ready for this? Don't ask that sort of question or think that sort of thing. The fact I had a gun was normal. I always carry is what he wants to get across there, because he's explaining here actions and what he takes time out to do, and add extra in is to say that he always has a gun. So it's important for him to get across, I always have a gun. But if you look at this, let me just read it again. And then I turned around and he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and I got my gun that I always carry. It's all process, it's all steps, it's all logic. There is no emotion, there's no pain. He's been hit in the back of the head with a bat, and he doesn't say it hurt or how heavy the blow was, or how hard it hit him, it stunned him, nothing like that. No description of pain and no description of any fear whatsoever. To be self-defense, you have to be in fear of your life, and yet he's not explaining that in his words at all. So you went to your room, meaning the room you're staying in. The policeman asks, and Alex says, yeah, okay, you brought a gun with you. Yes. Do you always bring a gun? Yes, I conceal carry always. Okay, just to be safe. Now, there we go. We've got that word just again. So he's asked, do you always bring a gun? And he could have just said, yes, I conceal carry always. It's my way of life. It's how I am. I've always got my gun with me. That would be perfectly acceptable, but he has to go extra. He doesn't bring his gun potentially to murder someone. That's what he wants to get across here. It's just, I always do it just to be safe. That word just flags me up for deception, and he is doing this just to be safe. So no, look, do not ask any questions about my gun. I always have it with me, and it's just to be safe. So I'm getting, again, some elements of, he wants to head off any discussion or thoughts of premeditation, that this gun was there for a reason, because he's told us, I always carry it, I always bring it with me, and it's only to keep me safe. It's not to do anything else with. So I think I've got some more signs there of premeditation. So listen, where are we at so far? Look, the head hit, that was not explained well at all. That for me should be the big thing. This guy attacked me with a bat, hit me on the head with a bat. This should be the instigation for acting in self-defense, but it's not explained very well at all. There's lots missing from a description of someone being whacked over the head with a bat. But the gun is explained. He gives lots of reasons as to why that gun is there. Coming up, Alex finally gets to the point in the story where he talks about shooting Charles. Now, just like this here, do you ever get the feeling you are not being told the full story? Well, you're right, because it happens all the time. And I'm here to give you the key to seeing deeper. This is about hearing the world with new ears, and I'm on a mission to share this skill with as many people as possible. So if you want to unlock the secret, then subscribe to this channel or follow it and join the movement. You can also delve into the archives, a treasure trove of cases waiting for you to explore them and learn more about understanding the world through understanding how people use words. And do you know someone who needs this, someone who deserves to hear the truth? Then hit the like button, share this, recommend it to that person, pass it on, because every single click, every single share, it all fuels the fire. It allows me to dig deeper, to analyze further, and it brings this life-changing skill to even more people. I hear regularly from people in the comments, grateful audience members who've navigated tricky life situations using the listening skills they've learned on this channel to get a better outcome for themselves. And that's really gratifying to hear. So your like, your share, your recommendation could help someone just like that. It's a great gift to give. Shall we go back to the roadside now and hear more from Alex Cox talking about shooting Charles? And I think this might be a familiar face at the start of this excerpt.
Hi, who are you? Okay, just stand over there for just a second, guys.
And then I told him to put the bat down, and he wouldn't, and he came at me again.
And the wife just showed up as well. So you told him to put the...
Yes.
So where are you at? Where are you at now? Or did you stay in your bedroom?
No.
Okay, why didn't you stay just in your bedroom, close the door? Is that something you didn't think about, or?
Didn't even occur to me.
Okay, so walk me through it. So you go back into your room.
So I just went back to the living room. I'm like, what is your problem?
With the gun in your hand?
Yes. And I said, I want you to put that bat down, and he wouldn't do it. And he's like, and he came at me with the bat again after he'd already hit me in the head. So I shot him to stop him.
Okay, and then what happened?
That was it.
Where's the weapon at now?
It's in the bedroom.
So after you shot him, you put it back in the room, or?
Yeah, I went back to the bedroom to get my phone.
Okay. And what'd you do with your phone?
It's right here.
Okay. And then what'd you do once you put your gun back? Grabbed your phone?
I cleaned my head up.
After you, was he laying there in the living room?
Yeah, he was laying there still. And it just took me a minute to compose myself. I mean, I was just shaking, and then I called.
Gotcha. Okay. We'll call 17 log.
Can I get some water?
Stand by. I don't have engine 2811. Just out of curiosity, how long have you known him? Long?
Yeah, 15 years.
Is that how long they kind of been married, kind of thing? Do you normally have a good relationship with the guy?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. When's the last time you guys saw each other, interacted?
Last time I saw him was when he lived out here before he moved. Oh, actually, the last time I saw him was at my house. After my sister split up, he came to my house once.
This sister?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So I believe that was Lori Vallow Daybell appearing at the beginning of that. I don't know this case massively well, so if you know, then do let me know in the comments. Was that her? It was all blurred out in the video that I could see. The police guy says to the people that appeared, I think Lori, stand over there for a second, guys. And Alex says, and then I told him to put the bat down, and he wouldn't, and he came at me again. Now, this is the first thing that Alex has volunteered all the time here. He's been very good at answering the questions as asked. Yes, sometimes those have been extra, and he's given us information he wasn't asked for, which makes us go, what's going on here? But this is the first time where he has just volunteered something, and what he volunteers, interesting. And then, so we've got that jump in time again. I told him to put the bat down, and he wouldn't, and he came at me again. He came at me again. Again, it's just not very violent. It's came at me and did what? Came at me. Also, there's not any sign there. I told him to put the bat down or I would shoot. There's no, I pointed the gun at him and told him to stop. There's none of that there whatsoever. It's just this, I told him to put the bat down and he wouldn't, and he he came at me again. And then the police guy does some functional stuff, and he says, so where were you at? Where are you at now? Did you stay in the bedroom? And he says, no. Okay, why didn't you just stay in the bedroom? Close the door. Is that something you didn't think about? Or, and Alex says, it didn't even occur to me. Okay, so walk me through it. You go back into your room. I just went back to the living room. I'm like, what is your problem? So we have here, I just went back to the living room. So this just, I think, indication of deception. And I think what this just is doing is downplaying what he did when he went back into the living room with the gun. I just went back into the living room. Did you just go back into the living room, or did you come out with your gun pointing and blazing? Are you trying to downplay exactly what you did when you walked back into the living room with the gun? I think that's what's happening here. I'm like, what's your problem? Now, this is very different from what he said earlier, where he said, I told him to put the bat down and he wouldn't, and he came at me again. That and then jumped something, which I think is him saying, what's your problem? Because this is much more aggressive on the part of Alex here than his first pass at telling this story. I just went back into the living room. I'm like, what is your problem? Now, it's entirely valid. What is your problem if someone is coming at you with a bat? I'm not having a go at him doing that, and I'm not saying that was especially egregious. It's not that bad, but what it is something that he didn't use in his first pass of telling this story. Him saying, what's your problem? In his first pass, it was much more downplayed. I told him to put the bat down. I was trying to calm things down. I was trying to make things go away. I was trying to get the bat out of his hands so that all the danger went. That's not what's happening in this second pass here, which is I came in much more aggressive saying, what's your problem? The police guy picks up on this, that there is no mention of the gun. So he asks, with the gun in your hand? And he says, yes. Now, that's all that's needed to be done. He could have just stopped there. Yeah, the gun was in my hand. But no, Alex goes extra, which is always going to be informative to us. Yes. And I said, I want you to put the bat down. And he wouldn't do it. And and he came at me with the bat again after he'd already hit me in the head. So I shot him to stop him. Now, this, I guess, is the big moment in the story. So let's break it down. And I said, I want you to put the bat down. So this is the second time now he's said that. So, okay. And he wouldn't do it. And he's like, he came at me with the bat again. So we've got a lot of stuttering going on here. Now, I would understand that stuttering. Stuttering suggests nerves of saying things, which can be deceptive. It can be the fact that it's hard to tell a lie. It could just be this is a very stressful moment. Remembering shooting your sister's husband would be stressful, and that's what could be going on here. But he came at me with the bat again. Again, it's not he tried to hit me with the bat again. There's no fear in there whatsoever. It's just he came at me with the bat again after he'd already hit me in the head. Now he's jumping backwards here in time to remind us that he's already been hit in the head. So I shot him to stop him. To stop him what? He doesn't say. But we have and so storytelling. Did you spot it? And he's like, and he came at me with the bat again. He'd already hit me in the head. So I shot him to stop him. But it's very, very flat description. He doesn't say I shot him to stop him. What? Coming at me with the bat? Doesn't say that. To stop him hitting me in the head again? He doesn't say that either. He shot him to stop him. To stop him what? Annoying his sister again? Living? He doesn't say, and we can't assume what he means just from the context of what is there. But once more, no fear. There's no real knowledge of self-defense there. There's no, he doesn't once say, if you come at me with the bat again, I'm going to shoot or anything like that. He doesn't relay that as he tells the story. So I shot him to stop him. Okay, and then what happened? He says, that was it. Now, that is a lie. Because other things did happen. You can see, you can hear other things happened. He put the gun back, he got his phone, he cleared his head and all these things. And then what happened? He says, that was it. That's him wanting to draw a line under that part there. Don't ask me any more questions about what is inside that box, because I've put everything inside that box. I only want to say it once. I don't want to say there was any more to it. That's an indication that there is not the full truth being said there by Alex. That was it. Don't ask me any more questions. I want to stop here. Where's the weapon at now? He's asked. He says, it's in the bedroom. So the policeman says, after you shot him, you put it back in your room. He says, yeah, I went back to the bedroom to get my phone. Okay, and what did you do with your phone? Interesting, he says, it's right here. So he doesn't say what he did with his phone, which is phone the police, tip off his sister. I don't know what he did with his phone, because he's not telling us either. He just says, my phone is right here. He says, okay, the policeman says, okay, and then what did you do once you put your gun back? Interesting, he says. So we have had a couple of things going on after the shooting. He says that was it. I.e., don't ask me any more questions, even more, though more did happen. And then when he's asked about the more that did happen, so what did you do with your phone? He doesn't tell us. He tells us where the phone is, but he doesn't tell us what he did with the phone. And what did you do once you put your gun back? He says, and doesn't answer the question. He takes some thinking time. The policeman helps him out and says, grabbed your phone. And he says, I cleaned my head up. Now, he starts saying, I cleaned my, and then he says, and it's as if he was going to say, I cleaned my something that he doesn't want to share with us that he cleaned, and then thinks, oh, crap, I've started saying this, I need to finish it, what will I say? And he says, I cleaned my head up, which is not a common phrase to use. I cleared my head up would be something that's common to say, but it's not. It's I cleaned my head up. So here, there's something being hidden. He cleaned something after the shooting. I don't know what it was that he cleaned. I really don't know what it was that he cleaned, but he cleaned something after the shooting, and he is hiding from us what it was that he cleaned. He says, I cleaned my head up. I don't believe that. What did you do when you got your gun back? Now, if this was real, I gathered my thoughts. I could not believe what had happened. I panicked. Could be any of those things. Could be I called an ambulance to try and get some help damn quick. None of that whatsoever. It's I cleaned my, and then thinks better of telling us what it was he cleaned and makes up something, in my opinion. I cleaned my head up. After you, was he laying there in the living room? The policeman asks. He says, yeah, he was laying there still, and it just took me a minute to compose myself. I mean, I was just shaking. So two uses of just, and just seems to be reliably used by Alex when he's being deceptive, when he's trying to focus our attention just on a very small sliver of things that happened. Something happened after the shooting that took a minute, and he says, it just took me a minute to compose myself. I mean, I was just shaking. All of that is understandable, but he's not talking about it in a very believable, reliable way. It just took me a minute to compose myself. I mean, I was just shaking. So there we have, I think, again, another indication that after the shooting, something went on. He says, and then I called, and the policeman says, gotcha, okay. Now, he doesn't say who he called, by the way, which is interesting. The implication we might get is he called the emergency services to report the incident, or he called his sister to say what he'd done to her estranged husband, but he doesn't say who he called, what the purpose of the call was. So again, he's been slightly deceptive about his phone afterwards. He wants us to make sure that we know he used his phone for some reason, or he wants to get out the fact if it gets discovered that his phone was in use for something, that he was being upfront and saying my phone was used. But I'm interested, what did he do with his phone? Was it his phone that he cleaned? I don't know. Then the police guy does some housekeeping. He says, just out of curiosity, how long have you known him long? Alex says, yeah, 15 years. He's asked, is that how long they've been married, kind of thing? He says, yeah. Do you normally have a good relationship with the guy? And this is an interesting answer for me, because Alex says, yeah, I do. Present tense. Now, he's shot him 20 minutes ago. He's not been dead very long, but this is just a little thing here to show that he hasn't processed the death yet. Do you normally have a good relationship with the guy? He says, yeah, I do in the present tense. He's asked, when was the last time you guys saw each other and interacted? He says, last time I saw him was when he lived out here before we moved. Oh, actually, the last time was when he was at my house. After my sister split up, he came to my house once. Now, what we have here is after my sister split up, not after they split up. So this is just showing, kind of understandable, that he's on his sister's side, that he has his sister's point of view there. But just in case there was any doubt, and he was just a great friend of both the estranged husband and his sister, he's really seeing this all from Lori's point of view. So in that point, what do I get? I want to know what was cleaned up. I really do want to know what was cleaned up after the shooting, because after the shooting, he's hiding something. He does talk about the shooting, but there's no sense of threat at all. There's no sense that he was acting in any kind of self-defense in any way whatsoever. And then after the shooting, he's very deceptive and he is hiding something about what went down. There is one part left of this roadside interview with Alex Cox to listen to.
So did you sleep here last night?
Yeah.
So what time did you about wake up this morning?
About 6:30 or so.
Normal day this morning, wake up? It's just you, your sister, niece?
Gonna go do something fun today.
Anybody else in the house besides you three this morning?
My nephew's at school.
And it was just you, your sister, and the kids?
Yeah.
And then he comes over, and that was about 20, 30 minutes ago, roughly?
Roughly.
Gotcha. Okay. So do you, you only live in Santan Valley, so why is it just easier to just hang out here?
I was just here late last night, sleeping the night.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you and your sister pretty close?
Yeah, we're planning to go do something today.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I've got some really interesting points to pull out here of that little bit at the end there. So he's asked, did you sleep here last night? He says, yeah. What time did you wake this morning? He says, about 6:30 or so. Normal day this morning, wake up, just you, your sister, your niece. And he says, yeah, gotta go, gotta do something fun today. Gotta do something fun today. Now, what was going on there with that answer? I've got two possibilities. One of them is not very nice, which was it was considered that murdering Charles was something fun to do that day. They don't appear to be that great a family, so maybe that's what was in his head. Today's going to be a fun day because Charles is going to meet his maker. That could be what is going on there. Or it could be that what he wants to do is get across the fact we had plans today, we were going to do things today. So, you know, if this was a premeditated murder, then I want you to think that this was a complete shock to us because we had plans, we were going to do something fun today. Doing all this and getting caught in all this was not our intention today. But it's extra. You know, he is only asked like, the normal day this morning, wake up, just you, your sister or your niece. He doesn't answer that whatsoever. What he wants to say was what he wants to get across, what is important for him to say, we were going to do something fun today. He's asked, nobody else in the house beside you three this morning. He says, my nephew's at school. So this nephew, again, just comes as an afterthought or something that's not really there in the main plot line, if you like. So it was just you, your sister, and the kids. Yeah. And he comes over. That was like about 20, 30 minutes ago, roughly. He says, roughly. Then he's asked, so you live in Santan Valley. So why is it just easier to hang out here? And then he says, are you and your sister pretty close? And Alex's answer is, yeah, we were planning to go do something today. So are you and your sister pretty close? Yeah. Now there's the answer to the question. Are you and your sister pretty close? Yeah, that would be a fine, truthful, honest answer. Very straightforward, just one word. We've seen the simplicity when Alex is telling the truth, and he decides to go extra and say something which has got really very little to do with how close he was to his sister, which is to say we were planning to go do something today. So I'll go to this again. We were planning to go do something today. We were planning, so that means we were planning, but we know we're not going to do it now because it's in that past tense. And I think this is, again, him saying this was not premeditated. This was not in our plans for today whatsoever. We had plans to do something fun. We had plans to do something together today. So please don't think this was premeditated. How could we have planned to do this if we were planning on, I don't know, going out to a theme park, going out for lunch today or something something like that. That is what I think is going on there. Just towards the end of this, it's almost as if he's like, right, if I told all the parts of the story like I wanted to tell all the parts of the story, I haven't got in the part that we were planning on doing other things today, just so they don't think this was a pre-planned murder. I'm going to mention it twice to make sure they really get it in very, very short terms. And that is all I have from that roadside interview of Alex Cox talking about the murder of Charles. So what do I think? Was Charles acting in self-defense, or was this something more premeditated? Well, listen, he's lying in this interview. I've got no doubt at all about the fact that he is lying. There are too many deceptive markers in there. There is no real sense of threat at all that was posed to either Lori or to Alex by Charles whatsoever. I think the nephew was a lure, and that's why he gets mentioned in slightly different terms to the rest of the family. I think there was a premeditated plan to shoot Charles and stage it as self-defense. What do you think? Do let me know in the comments on this platform if you can. I'd always be really interested to hear what you think about Lori Vallow Daybell and her brother Charles. Her brother Alex, was this a premeditated murder of Charles? Let me know in the comments if you can, or you can get in touch on social media. If you go to neveratruerword.com, you'll find all the links to get in touch on social media. You'll also find a whole load more cases to look at, where we look at how people use words, and we can uncover the keys to seeing the truth, to seeing deception, and also the motivations between people and how they come out in the words that people choose to use. That's neveratruerword.com, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.